Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2023 RBC Canadian Open. This is going to be a preview show. I'm going to talk bets. I'm going to go over picks, do all the player analysis. I got to do all this in one show because I'm going to be traveling the rest of this week. So I apologize. This is going to be pretty quick and dirty, but I wanted to get you guys out something at least to help you with your DFS lineups and also maybe some betting ideas. With that said, as always, thank you for stopping by, spend a little time with me, and let's go talk a little golf. But first, always got to remember, I do have a giveaway going on for the US Open, of course, at the LACC. And what is it, you might ask? It is, I am randomly picking 5 winners to give them $100 of my money each. And all you need to do is simply be a subscriber. And if you're not, subscribe and tell me, who do you think is going to win the US Open? Click that like button and share it with anybody else that you like. And again, to summarize, giving away randomly $100 to 5 different folks. And all you need to do to get in the giveaway is very simple. If you're not a subscriber, click that subscribe button. And while you're at it, click the notifications. Find out when all my videos come out. And you could be randomly selected to get $100 here to put into the LAC. And I will announce the winners probably on probably the pick show, which will be next week. So real quick, we had another nice week from a DFS and a betting side. You guys saw that I had Victor Hovland on my cover screen for my picks. Was kind of feeling, I kind of talked about, him between Morikawa, which burned me big time on the showdown finale because I actually, in one of my larger kind of, not head-to-head, but it's a 267 me out of against 3 other people. Literally, I lost it by just a few points with having no Morikawa playing. Of course, he withdrew to back spasms. But I almost won that thing with 5 players, which would have been like one of the greatest wins I ever had. But with all that said, it was still a really nice week. Victor, his short game kept coming around, even though, at times his irons were not exactly on track. He didn't have the best track record here, but, it was awesome to see him win, as you guys know, and a lot of people are big fans of Vic. So it's great to see him get the win. And just a couple other notes that I remember. So, if you kind of remember this, it was just amazing to see how these guys, even on Sunday, the volatility of what was going on with that course. And if you watched my pick show, the more and more I kept hearing about what this course was going to play like, and also living pretty close to the area, knowing how dry it's been here, right? I came out with that Bay Hill model, and I tweeted this out yesterday. If you I had 17 guys listed that did very well the last couple of years at Bay Hill, which is where they played the Arnold Palmer, which for the last couple of years have been very dry, baked out, crazy rough, crazy hard greens. And 14 out of those 17 guys actually, made the cut. You had in there, of course, you had the winner, which was Victor. You had Rory, Hatton, Fitzy. Scheffler, of course, ended up 3rd. So, it actually worked out really well going with that kind of a comp analysis, and was happy about. What killed me actually was Corey Connors and a lot of my, large GPP DFS. I played a lot of Corey Connors, and I'm going to be going back to the well again, as you're going to see. But I didn't get to see one shot of him, and I actually didn't even analyze his stroke gain data. But he did not do good. And so it must have been everything was just not working well. But anyways, what this is showing is after Thursday, of course, Davis Riley. You also had Matty Wallace that was up there, leading the first round. You had some odd first-round leaders. Then you had Justin Suh, who, just putted the lights out and took the lead. Day 2, which Hideki was also up there. And then you had Rory, who looked like, probably everybody, and even myself thought, hey, he's probably going to take this thing down. But of course, he kind of fell apart a bit on Sunday, as a lot of players did. So just thought that was kind of interesting. You could see the scoring for each of those days. The hardest, actually, funny enough, is showing Thursday. But then also it's a little skewed, right? Because you have a lot of the guys for this round that were cut out that were not playing very well. And you had withdrawals, right? Dylan Fratelli would have literally shot a 90. He pulled out of the first round. I think he was at like 80-something with like 4 or 5 holes to go. You had Brennan Todd, which is in the field right now, but I'm a little cautious. I think it's what I'm seeing with this course, and we'll get into all that, probably a pretty good fit for this track, but he's supposedly withdrew day 2 due to the shoulder, and of course, I already mentioned the Morikawa withdrawal. Anyways, it was kind of interesting, the ups and downs, the Rahms and the Cantlays. Even though Cantlay was kind of in the mix till like Saturday, Sunday, he kind of fell apart. The guys that we were very used to seeing up there were not the guys that, except for like, kind of a Rory that were flushed out. And I actually put this up there, and we're going to look at some stroke gain analysis. And this is going to be pretty quick, but this was Scheffler, I believe it was on day 1. And I don't know if I had him, but how many birdie putts that he was missing or lipping. And it was kind of interesting. They mentioned that the putter he won the Masters with, he doesn't use anymore. I don't know if it's in a shrine or in some glass case. And I'm sure that what he's got there is very similar, if not exact. But I don't know, man. The way he's been putting and still ending up with opportunities to win these tournaments, again, just a stroke behind. I don't know. I'll be bringing that thing maybe back out and putting maybe the one that looked like it in the case, because I don't know if it's a mental thing, but it's been amazing. And we're going to show here, you could see, where's he at here? Lost, by Saturday, he was losing 7 strokes to the field with the putter and, ended up losing 8.5 strokes. But with that said, as I mentioned, came in third. Ball striking was ridiculous. Gained almost 5 strokes off the tee, almost 12 strokes with the irons, 4 around the green. Actually led in ball striking and actually total stats gain, if I remember correct. Tee to green, it's just the putter just destroyed him. And then of course the flip side, that Denny we just went nuts. Which Denny's one of the better putters on tour, but gained over 11 strokes with the putter. It also gained a bit on approach. And of course, Victor and him went to that playoff, 1-hole playoff with, of course, Denny had a chance. I believe, I think about this. So Victor birdied 17 and then bogeyed, I believe, 18, which kind of, but anyways, I didn't really want to go too deep into it. It was a great tournament. Again, I had another winner from a Griot, Hovland pick, so we've been running pretty well. But really, it's kind of funny. In the large GPPs, I've had one person, one guy that I'm playing that just blows away all the lineups. But from a showdown perspective, it was very good. And I bet Victor live. I got a decent, but to be honest, I was actually pulling for Denny. I think I got him 60-1 pre-tournament, but didn't happen. Anyways, that's that. Let's go talk about this Canadian, because I got to make this a little quicker today because we got a lot to cover and I'm trying to get this thing done in an hour for you guys. All right. So of course we're heading up north, going to Toronto, Canada, and we're going to be playing this year Oakdale Golf and Country Club, which has been around since 1926. And it's kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie, with this tournament. So I've only covered this tournament starting last year because the previous 2 years, right, were COVID, and they ended up doing like a WGC event or whatever they did to replace it. And I think they've literally had 47 different courses they've used for this Open. Now I get it's the Canadian Open, but I don't know why. I feel like, pick 2 courses and just rotate between the 2, or I don't know, especially from an analyst perspective, it's kind of a pain because there's just not a ton of information. It's the first time a professional event has been played here. I guess they're going to come back here, I don't know, a few years out to do the RBC Canadian Open again. I saw something where maybe a Corn Ferry event at some point was here, but really don't care about that. All right, with all that said, it is a par 72, and it is an odd par 72. We'll get into how these holes are breaking down. From a yardage standpoint, it's 7,264 yards. You got, which is typical, kind of almost up in, I'll put it the Midwest or upper North. You got the bent fairways. I did not get a confirmation on the rough, but everything I've been hearing and even past, they've always grown the rough up pretty high for the Canadian Open. So I'm estimating 3.5 to 4 inches, not too far off what we just saw last week. And it's the Kentucky Bluegrass with a question mark. That's what it's typically, the grass up there. So I don't have that confirmed, but that's what I would guess. And then the greens are confirmed. It is that bent kind of POA mix. Now, I don't know if that's POA Trivials or literally it's just a hybrid, which I would guess probably a hybrid. Again, even in Michigan, we get a lot of this kind of bent POA mixture. It's not going to be as easy to get your 6 of 6 through this week because, of course, we're at a full player field of 156 players cut to the T65 in ties. And if you kind of go over the history of this event, at least, or like the past 5-6 years, cut line is going to probably come somewhere around even to 200. You can see, again, that's kind of guessing because literally we've only, from my perspective, have had one event, that was last year with any time frame. And then before that, of course, with Rory winning it. So it was like back-to-back with a 2-year hiatus due to COVID. And, of course, he won last year. I believe that was St. George's, I think was the name of that one. I always get confused because of where they had the Open. But neither here or there, he shot 19 under last year. And then the previous, at the Hamilton course, I believe it was, he shot 22 under. And then at Glen Abbey, was played there for a while. And DJ, of course, won in 2018, shooting 23 under. And, it used to be you could just pretty much pick Johnny Vegas. His only wins, like on tour, was the RBC Canadian Open, where he won there back-to-back. This is some guessing, again, because even the data sheets that I got were pretty limited in information. Hence, again, why it's a little annoying from our side when they change these events and there's just not a lot out there. But it looks like, from everything I could see, smaller than average green size, which I think even last year I had it at 4,000 square feet, which is really small greens. You're talking like kind of Pebble Beach. So I'm guessing definitely less than 5,000. And again, from the videos, and you can go search YouTube and do flyovers, or if you go on your app, they do a bit of a preview where you can see it's an old style course, bunch of trees, small greens, and we'll get into all the comp course stuff here in a few. There is this one large, well, not large, but lengthy, we'll call it river, creek, Black Creek that runs through quite a few of the holes, which you can see, which if you get a little wayward, it could, but I don't see it as a huge issue. And then again, this is a guesstimation. I'm guessing the greens. Again, we haven't had a lot of rain here or even in Toronto. And so I'm guessing 12 to 13. So they'll probably be pretty firm, pretty fast, what we just saw. So with all that said, of course, defense with, again, some guesstimation. Small greens, we're going to have thick rough, everything I've seen in from past. You do have tree-lined fairways. Kind of tighter shoots is what I saw, at least in the videos, where you're coming off the tees. It's a little tighter, kind of opens up some. But, we are going to be focusing on guys that have good drives, hit a lot of fairways. That's the route that I'm taking. You do have quite a bit of elevation. You got these elevated greens. And from my understanding, there's not that shaved runoffs, that it's actually you off the green, you're right in a thick rough. So around the green is going to be important. Just from a quick weather report side, if you go look at Windfinder and pull up, I think it was Riverdale Park or something like that. There's nothing real super close to here, but you can get close to Toronto. And it looks like it's going to be quite a bit cooler. I'm talking like 55 in the morning, high of like 60 something during the tournament. It looks like there could be some winds and possibly a little tiny bit of rain. They're showing right now Thursday night. But mostly where I was going with that is it's just going to be a lot cooler than what these guys have been playing in. And hence, if you're playing guys in the morning, the ball doesn't travel as far. So just side note, keep an eye on the weather. I'm not going to go into all that because it's Monday and it's so far off. Now, this is what's kind of unique, of course. I kind of talk about it here too. This is a 27-hole course, 3 nines. And what they're doing is they're taking 2 of the 9s and kind of splitting them up, taking like 5 holes from one, 4 holes from the other. And then this George Knudsen, they're going to use as a full back 9. So they're literally just kind of pulling different holes. And I believe they've done this before. I think they even do it at the Rocket Mortgage. They'll do some combinations like this. But what is unique is what they selected was 12 par 4s, 3 par 5s, and all of them are pretty gettable, and then only 3 par 3s. That's a very unique breakdown for a par 72 that I've ever seen. And the par 3s, I don't think they're nothing, like 170-ish. I've got the scorecard, so we'll go through that. A lot of short par 4s. So again, that's prox to the pin. I've got some small ones or short yardage ones that we're going to be looking at. And I kind of already went over it. The only other note that I don't think I pointed out is that the front 9 will play 400 yards longer than the back. And I believe the back has 2 par 5s, but we'll go through the scorecard. All right, this is actually a overhead view of this thing. And I'm not going to say this is a good way to understand, but you can just kind of see like a typical, probably a lot of courses that you played, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. The woods, and not a ton of sand, only around the greens. I didn't notice a lot in the fairways. Again, if you kind of look at it just around the sand. So really didn't worry about that, but not a ton. And you can see that creek, as I kind of mentioned. And I would guess if you took like a square, like right here is the holes that they're going to be kind of combining. And of course, it's clubhouse down there. But that was it, just so you get the visual of, yep, tree lined, and not a lot of sand to fairways, mostly all around the greens. This is not the greatest picture, but again, it kind of gives you a visual. Looks like a par 3, a very tight on some of these holes. That was all that was meaning to show you. And then here's the official scorecard. Like I said, I mentioned off the kick, you've got 2 par 4s. I would guess that are pretty tight if they're that short. But again, so, it's kind of funny. You take into average if they're hitting driver, right? If you take the 300, they have about 79 yards in, 84 yards. But I'm guessing a lot of these guys are going to be hitting driving irons. They're going to be hitting hybrids and 3-woods. So it's going to be, we don't have the data on how many procs to pins. I just took some guesstimations, kind of walking through the scorecard. And then you got some longer par 4s, you'll notice, so it kind of goes from very small, very long. And then the longest par 5 that I saw is this number 7, 590. But for these guys, shouldn't be a problem to get a birdie. And then again, right back to a very short par 4, 350. Then you got a par 3 at 193. So out at 3,700 yards. And then on 10, again, a very short par 4, a little longer par 3 at 208, a very gettable, depending on how much bend, dog leg, whatnot. But, from a yardage perspective, possible eagle chance. Another pretty short for our PGA standards, par 4, short par, well, not short, but 170-yard par 3. And then again, you got this 419, another short par four, another short, so a couple, and then like the last hole, a par five, so it's a scoring opportunity, which is going to be interesting. A 496. Again, I don't know the hole that well by any stretch, but a possible eagle to flip, kind of what's going on. Worst case, a birdie. So that's kind of the scorecard breakdown, the player profile that I'm going to be going with, and that's going to be guys. I'm not so much worried about distance, more guys that are just accurate. But I mean, you could kind of flip it and go, well, the guys that have distance, like let's say like a Rory that hits a 3-wood 300 yards and is more accurate than with a driver. There's that approach to it too, so that's some way to think about it. But overall, I'm looking for guys that hit fairways. I think high irons are going to be huge here. I got that heavily weighted when I did my models. I think because of how small the greens are, around the green always shows up. You've got the trees. You're going to have to scramble a little bit. Putting has showed up in the past in these events, and I'll go over that, looking at just a couple of the more recent. And then curious, I pulled in these two procs to the pins because this is, where I think they're going to need is like that 125 to 170, which Rory's been terrible with his, gap, lob, and, the wedges. We'll just put it that way. I put in par fours because there's 12 of them. Just see how they do, gaining strokes on the par fours. And then I see this as being a birdie fest. I think these guys should, and even shown in the past, I'm guessing somewhere around 20 under to, could even be more. It's all depending how, tough is the rough going to be. But again, I expect it being a bit like a putting contest. All right, so if we look at, this is the year that Rory actually won, 2019, before COVID. And, the big thing I'll just focus on is, it wasn't so much about off the tee now. Of course, Rory, kind of breaks that mold there. But if you look at Webb, Lowry, Kuchar, Snedeker, Hadwin, and like I said, the one thing about the RBC Canadian Open, if you go kind of look at all the courses, there's quite a bit of similarity as far as I feel on how the courses play. So I don't have a problem looking at some past data. But, quite a bit on the irons, but really it was, the putter really stood out. There's no red, and everybody was gaining, like 7 strokes with the putter. And then around the green also showed up. So, you kind of look at that. And then if we look at just last year, it flips it a little bit, right? Where the Bombers actually kind of show up a little more with Rory and Finau, JT, he's pretty long, Burnsy, Killer Keith, Wyndham Clark. But you see, the Chris Kirks of the world, Justin Rose, where I see him more accurate than long. And you can see, like I said, it just showed up that more guys were gaining off the tee at I think it was St. George's. But the irons still ran true. But around the green, it didn't have to be as good, but the putter still really showed up. So again, we're all going to be guessing a little bit when it all says, and again, looking at it from a GPP perspective, I'll probably do some mixes because I do believe that guys with super length that are going clubbing down really turn into a plotter, right? I mean, you turn into a Brennan Todd because you're hitting your ball 280 in the fairway every time, but you still have that driver weapon if you want to pull it out and you're confident, especially if the rough is not as penal as, it might be. We don't know. Well, everything I'm hearing is it should be pretty bad. And I haven't, I haven't got any coverage yet from any guys talking about playing because, again, it's Monday. Okay, so with all that said, here is the custom model that I put together for you guys. This is what I'm going to go with. And, of course, I'm going to be traveling, so I'm going to be, using this, but trying to keep an eye on some things when I'm putting my lineups together. You got good drives at 20%. You got approach weighted at 30, around the green at 10, scrambling at 5. Putting at 10, you got those 2 proxes at 5. Stroking on the par 4 at 5, and then birdie or better opportunities gained at 10. I'm looking at, last 6 tournaments, 24 rounds, very typical, and no filters turned on. And the guys that popped up here, I was pretty good with. Terrell Hatton, JR was somebody that I kind of thought should be a perfect fit. Corey Connors, now I know he struggled. And we'll look at his stroke gain just to see what happened at the Memorial. But yeah, I don't know what he shot, like 8 over, something crazy. Fleetwood's been solid. Brendan Todd, I remember he pulled out supposedly with his shoulder injury, but he was also just blowing up a scorecard. So who knows how that went. Michael Kim, right? I told you guys, if I don't play him, he's going to do well. When I pick him, he's terrible. But I think he's a good fit for here. Hubbard, of course, fits the course. Been in good form. Benny Martin, Ches Reavie, guy that I've been on for quite a while. As we've been going through these kind of courses like the PGA, that was, at Oak Hill, right? Or wherever the hell it was. As we've been playing like the Colonial, like these really kind of tight tracks that you have to hit fairways, not so much worry about distance, and hitting like that long 200 approach. Ches Reavie's been, making cuts and getting us through for very cheap. Kuchar fits that mold. Eric Cole, the driver, is not, but everything else is really good. Dylan Wu. Andrew Novak, Joseph Bramlett, which is kind of unique because he's I would put him in the bomber camp, and then Kevin Roy, who's also we've gotten to play here or there that's gotten us through pretty cheap. And then, of course, it's recent form. I call this super recent form. This is looking at just the last three tournaments because I do believe these guys do go up and down. And if you don't look at it in different segments like this, then you might miss something. And so, under the same model, no filters, JR goes to number one. So, really hot. And again, looking at the last three tournaments he's played. Aaron Badley, this is probably the only time I could ever state that I've ever did a model, especially in a recent form, and Aaron Badley pops up. But he has been playing better golf. We always know him as a really good putter and around the green. But, the irons and, everything else is starting to come along. So, at 130 to 1 from a betting side's not bad. And also, I think he's a good play. I don't know where it's priced in. I think he's low sevens, but we'll take a look at that because I believe I do pick him. Nate Lashley, kind of same thing. He's been playing really good golf. T-Hat, Carson Young, it's been kind of the hot thing. Makes a ton of birdies, but also makes a ton of bogeys. Corey Connors, Todd shows up again. Kim, Fitzy, and McElroy. Luke List, who's someone I'm a little bit interested in here. The putters, at least not losing 10 strokes around. Fleetwood, Sean O'Hare, same thing. Been kind of getting around for a cheap price tag. Dylan Wu, and then Vincent Norman, who I'll play once in a while on Showdown. Will produce some birdies and stuff for you. I think the first time for me, he kind of came on my radar was at the Zurich. All right, and then I also threw this together because I always, later on, in my analysis, I always do kind of a condensed model, like really just focus on 3 or 4 stroking categories that I think are most important. And so I wanted to do that for you guys too. So this is looking at, really tuning up the good drives approach. I even threw in ball striking on this one, putting and birdies, and just really simplified it. So I'll give you the top 15 guys. Again, no filters turned on. Looking at the last 6 tournaments. T-Hat, Connors, Rose, Benny Marlowe, a lot of the same guys I was talking about. Maybe Lowry got popped in. Aaron Rye kind of fits the mold. The putter is really bad. We go over here and look at that. But, man, the guy hits a ton of fairways, a ton of greens. Typically plays tough courses pretty well. Carson Young. Dylan Wu, Akshay, Adam Svensson, man. I think this looks like a perfect course. Of course, he's a Canadian. Skipped the Colonial or the Charles Schwab because of, I guess, an injury that was undisclosed. Then he comes out and plays the Memorial. I think I picked him, tried him. Of course, he misses the cut. So now we're like, well, what is he dealing with? Because he was playing such good golf. And now we're right back to that same question. I have no idea on, to play him or not, but I think he's a perfect fit if he's healthy. And then Ches Reavie at the end. And then last, I did it again for what I just did for recent form is, okay, looking at the last 3 tournaments. Funny enough, Justin Rose, Carson Young, T-Hat, List, Wu, Lashley, Connors, Norman, Lowry. David Lipsky is so funny. I played him a ton at the Colonial, and he did really good for me. But for whatever reason, I did not go back to him for the Memorial and regretted that he was there like 3rd day leader up there. I have no idea, but he's had a back-to-back good showings. And again, could be an interesting play here. Doc Redman, Scott Piercy, Rory McIlroy, Fitzy, and Sean O'Hare. All right, if you're curious, we have a ton of Canadians calls to Canucks. I did this last year, but there was definitely not as many. But of course, it is an open. I think they try to get every Canadian that plays at any professional level or college. And this guy's name is Etienne. I have no clue why it came out in hieroglyphics, but Etienne Papineau. But really, there's, from my perspective, there's maybe 5 or 6 Canadians that, I would even consider probably playing. Of course, your number one's Connors. I am interested in Nick Taylor. Also, I'll talk about him from a betting side. Adam Hadwin, who, I don't know, he's just not been playing that good at golf, but I feel like he's had some decent recent form. Svensson, we don't know how he's doing. Is he healthy? Does Stuart McDonald, right, has only got 2 rounds. So watch that. Aaron Cockrell. A lot of these other guys, Mike Weir. Actually, it's funny. I looked, and it showed on Fantasy National that he missed the cut at the Masters, but I'm almost 100% sure he made the cut this year at the Masters, of course, past champion there. So it could be kind of interesting. His game set should kind of fit this place, just kind of plotted along. And then you got Drew Nesbitt, who I think he just qualified through the open part of this. David Hernapass, Canadian. Michael Glikic had a little run there. Ben Silverman. And then the rest of these guys. Of course, Taylor Pendrith, we all know him. Roger Sloan, who just popped his head up in, I forgot what tournament it was recently. I think he's like on a medical exemption. Then Mackenzie Hughes, of course, he won Sanderson Farms, I don't know, like last fall. And then since then, it's been pretty rough. But where I'm going with all this, why I even show these guys, is typically Canadians, when they're playing their home thing, are, just typically do show up. And, of quite a few of these guys we should see have some decent rounds and maybe even have a chance to win, like a Corey Connors and Nick Taylor, who had a chance to win the Waste Management. Came down right to the end with Scotty. Okay, so of course, because we do not have any course history here, nobody does. I think the comp course thing kind of definitely comes into play, and the way that I view this course and everything, even though it's a par 72, but the way it's going to play, I put it a lot like what we just watched at the Colonial for the Charles Schwab. I think the Fortinet at Silverado, which used to be the Safeway, they've got like the same greens. It's, you know, like a par 70, so like 7,200 yards. Like it's very, very woodsy elevation. Like I think honestly, Silverado, from what I see, is a very close fit. I mean, even TPC Deer Run, where they play the John Deere now, and this field actually is not too far off what you see at the John Deere. So yeah, and that's also bent greens. You know, you got the Travelers, which is TPC River Highlands. I believe that's what, Connecticut. Also, you know, bent greens. You know, got the elevations. It's got the trees. Of course, I always just think of English who won there, but trying to remember who won. What was it? Xander? I think Xander Schauffele won it last year, if I remember. And then the Rocket Mortgage, which, you know, I know this course very well, and even it has no elevations, very flat, but it is back forth trees, very small greens, and they are that kind of bent POA mix. So also it's a scoring fest there, and a lot of these places they will pop up, except for the Colonial, which you could question that it plays a lot tougher. The rest of them is like a score fest, so you know it kind of shows relatively same. With all that said, we look at the last 6 tournaments that these guys have played on those tracks against my model. If you're curious, funny enough, Ches Reavie pops up number 1. Brendan Todd's fencing, which all of that I agree with. Again, I think it fits this kind of build. If again, this is how it all works out, but everything I see tells me it's going to be more of a strategic course than it will lean to like a I always go back to Kapalua, the course that is whatever 7,700 yards. But man, it's whoever's got the big driver because you can hit it anywhere and you're going to have a chance for an approach. T-Hat, Hank Laboto, which is Hammer and Hank. That's kind of funny. He shows up there, the lefty, and was in pretty good form. But man, it's saying that this is his kind of track. Of course, Bermuda Burns, Sahith Theegala. I do not see this as a good fit. Right, I took that leap of faith that he did make the cut, but man, the driver just got him in so much trouble at Jack's place there at Memorial. So I will not be on him. Party Marty Laird, who won the Shriners, I believe is his last win, or at least has showed up there. So typically really bad putter, but not a bad ball striker. Mark Hubbard's been playing really good golf. This should fit him perfect. JR was actually the guy that I thought of first. I always tell you guys, the first guy I think of that should have a good chance of winning. Now, of course, he just won at Pebble Beach. Very small greens, kind of a small layout. Now, not as penal, I don't feel like, definitely from a rough perspective, but could definitely do something here. Chesson Hadley. Last time I think of Chesson was what he had a chance to win at Palmetto, if I remember correctly. That was a couple years back. Of course, that's when Garrick Hagel won in his second tournament on tour. Corey Connors, my buddy Lucas Glover, of course, that comes up because he won the John Deere. Carson Young, and then Rory at the bottom is kind of rounds out, if you are curious, against my comparable courses, who does well on these kind of tracks out of this field. All right, with all this said, I'm going to show you my sicko betting card, and it is, but I do feel like this is a tournament. I always tell you guys, like last week, I didn't really have a ton on the betting side, but, like I said, I still did okay out of that. But, the top of the board, I don't think it's a terrible field, but I don't think it's that great. And I think Rory's game, I do not think Rory's going to win this thing. Again, that's just my own personal feelings just from what I've been watching. But who knows? Like I said, Rory could flick a switch and this game over. But anyways, I did bet Ches Reavie, 180 to 1, Hammer and Hank. I threw a few bucks on him. Mark Hubbard, Glover, Carson Young, and these are all outrights, just with nothing crazy. Lipsky, Penderith, Jim Herman, even because the guy is the ultimate plotted around, right? He won at Wyndham, was his last win out of nowhere, probably very similar odds to that. So watch out for Jimmy Herman, Nick Taylor, which I feel pretty good. Of course, I mentioned he's had some really good rounds. One at Pebble Beach. If you want to use that account because of the small courses, and it's kind of a little bit of a plotter, depending when you get back to like Monterey. I don't know. I think they put Spyglass in that rotation. What is it? Monterey, Pebble Beach, Wawrinski, right? I always kind of bet this dude when I see somewhere he's got a hope and a prayer. Literally last time I think he had a chance to win was a 3M Open, which was a while ago. Ludwig Erbreg. I'm going to go ahead and do it, right? Of course, he's Best player in college, I believe. I'm not sure 100%, but I think this is his first professional debut. I think Memorial was actually Sam Bennett's. And of course, we got to watch quite a bit of him at the Masters. The guy is typically very accurate. He fits kind of that plotter, very in pretty good short game and putter. SH Kim, I've just been kind of watching this guy more, and man, I really like his game and swing. EVR has just got like that griot game where I've watched him for so long. The guy will come out in top 10 and then he'll miss cuts for like the next 5 tournaments. But with that said, even though the driver can get him in trouble, usually elite with his irons. And I think this could be a good track for him, especially if he clubs down and quits hitting his driver all over the lot. So yeah, I bet him. So again, I mentioned kind of a sicko betting card. Not typically the way probably people pursue this, but I tell you guys, I'm always after the long odds. I'm not after like, well, I'll bet the 7-1, and I'll put my $100 on that and call it a day. Like, not fun for me. But you do you, and I'll do me. All right, hey, let's go jump over into Fantasy National. Let's go do some player analysis, some picks. Then I'll get you guys out of here. Okay, I've hopped over into Fantasy National, and as always, my plug for them. If you are doing any betting or putting any money into DFS on the golf side, you need to check this tool out. I highly recommend it. Okay, so real quick, as always, we're going to be looking at this kind of mini model dashboard map. I've got 24 rounds of data being pulled in. I've got no filters, and I am using DraftKings pricing. But of course, you could use these picks for anything, FanDuel, Yahoo, whatever you're doing. I've got 25 guys that I'm looking at to be using in my player pool that I would, I'm recommending. But of course, with this analysis, you can also make your own choices. And what I'm looking at here, let's just pull up so you can see the weighting of this. I'm, again, heavily on the good drives. And if you don't know what that is, it's fairways and then hitting the green on your approach, or you could actually be in the first cut and then hitting the green on the approach. Got that weighted at 26%. Of course, approach is hitting your approach shot to the green at 30, around the green at 15, putting at 15, and then his prox 100 to 125, I think is going to be the heavy one with all those short par fours. So I'm using that because I do believe it's going to be a birdie fest. We're back to looking at birdies over the last 24 rounds. And then over here, you can see real quickly what have they done over their past. And then real quickly over here, you can see what they've done, recent results over their past 5 tournaments or tournament history. Again, keeping in note that these courses are different, but I think there's a lot of similarities. So you can, could leverage it a little bit. And right off the bat, where I kind of told you, you can see from a model ranking and everything, I just feel like Rory's is still in a bit of a funk now. I know if he would have won the tournament, everybody would have been all over him and said, hey, Rory's back, la. Well, what you're not seeing here, of course, you can see the irons. That's the big worry for me. But also, he has been terrible from like I said, with the wedges. And I think you're going to need a ton of them. The putter has come back a little bit to life. Of course, he gained a ton off the tee. But, we'll see. But I am going to be, again, this is looking at from a GPP DFS perspective. I will definitely be not playing Rory. And again, if I put 10 lineups in, I probably won't play him in any because he's $1,000 more than everybody else. And I think there's better plays down. So that's that for my Rory analysis. Also, let's go. I do want to look at one thing. So let's go look at the RBC Canadian last year, because if I remember correctly, him coming in, so that was RBC Canadian. Yeah, look at the form that he was coming in at. The Masters 2nd, a 5th, an 8th, an 18th. The guy was in awesome form. It wasn't like he just came back to play the RBC Canadian, all of a sudden just, found new life. And then if we look at here recently, though, since the Arnold Palmer, miscut, 47th, a 7th and a 7th. So you can say he's making a little bit, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of call that out, that he was in really good form when he won the RBC Canadian Open. Okay. The guy that I'm going to rather go to is Sammy Burns. Of course, he's an RBC guy, right? We got quite a few of those guys. I don't know, Rory. I think he's got the RBC badge, but you got like Sahith Theegala, Sam Burns. I don't know. There's quite a few of the guys. So Corey Connors, of course, a lot of the Canadians. So they, of course, are going to be playing in this tournament because it wouldn't have shocked me to see Rory would have withdrawn. I think he did the Heritage, even though he was RBC guy. I think it doesn't matter. But I'm going back to my boy Burns. I'm seeing a sign of life, a 16th. Also what I've got to pick through from a talent basis, no questions. Of course, I think he can handle everything he needs. He makes a ton of birdies. So, again, thinking he might club down a bit because the driver has got a little off. We'll take a real quick look just for a refresher. And really what I'm looking at here, the irons have come back a bit and a little down here where he had the 2 missed cuts. So hopefully those keep firing. It's kind of funny when I think of Burns and Rory. If you saw any of the coverage, they've got like this. I think they call it the impact ball, right? It goes in between your arms. It forms that triangle. So on your backswing, it's keeping everything together. You used to be able to just stick gloves under your armpits, and that would kind of do some of the similarities. But funny, Burns and Rory have been using it, and I don't know. Hopefully, it's helping those guys. But just kind of a total side note. T Hat actually is probably one of my favorite picks. If I had to pick out of those 3 guys, I would play Terrell Hatton over and over. Now, you know, of course, he didn't have the best. When I say the best, because in elevated events, right, he was top 5 in all of them except the Genesis. But man, the guy's been in perfect form. He's got everything that I'm looking for. You know, the guy typically hits a ton of fairways, good with the irons, good putter. Like from everything we've been seeing and making birdies. You know, if I was going to bet and pick one guy in the top, it'd be T Hat. Fitzy kind of had one of those Fitzy days. I think it was on Saturday. I mean, he went, I think, slow Thursday, really good Friday, and then I think the irons went away on Saturday. So it was like Jekyll and Hyde. Let's go just take a quick look, because that's what's made me nervous with Fitzy is his irons have been just like up and down. So of course he won the RBC, gaining 6, and it was like amazing compared to what he was doing before that. And of course the Masters we didn't get to see, but watching, he was definitely hitting the irons better. And then they've kind of teetered a little off. And then I feel like the couple of days that he did not shoot well, a lot of it was the iron player. So where I'm going with all that is it could kind of come and go, and you can of course see the good drives has also been a bit off. So I'm going to pass on Fitzy. This is what I need to look at. I've not even looked at this yet. Let's go look at what happened to Corey Connors. So very unique. Also, let's go do this. I want to see what he shot, because I really didn't get to watch. Let's do this. Let's go do a little Corey Connors. 77-75. So he shot 5 over first day, 3 over the next. So first I wanted to look at that. And then what it's saying to me was it was the irons, which is pretty unique, right? We know how good he could be with the irons, but his irons were off. And he didn't do that great with the driver and the putter. So kind of just misfiring on everything, and that happens, right? Everybody has not the greatest week. But again, everything that I want is what Corey has been doing. He's been putting, kind of showing. Of course, he had the win not too long ago at the Valero, where of course he won prior. So I'm going right back to him. I'm kind of hoping that ownership's down on the DFS side, but I'll be shocked. But we'll see. Of course, again, he's in Canada. So he's my pick. You saw him on the cover screen. I like him a lot. And I told you Justin Rose was the first guy I kind of thought about that I wanted to bet and play. Of course, he's been playing really good golf. Also, if you remember last year, he shot 10 under on Sunday coming in, which was like, if you had him in a showdown, he was the guy you needed to get you at least paid some money on Sunday's showdown finale. But yeah, the guy's been perfect, and even from a cost perspective. So again, I could see myself playing quite a bit of guys, even maybe skipping some 10s, but like a T-Hat, Corey Connors, and JR is a lot of my starts, and then figuring out the bottom part to get different. Fleetwood right there too. Been playing really good golf. Of course, he did. He burned me. I had quite a bit of him, and picked him for the Charles Schwab. Let's go take a look what happened to our buddy Tommy, who was playing such good golf and then just fell apart at the Colonial. I mean, it was everything off the tee, but really the irons just fell apart, which is pretty crazy because the irons, like what, I don't know, 8 events in a row he was gaining. So again, like a Corey Connors last week, no problem to go right back to him. Everybody has an off. He had a T6 in 2018. Of course, JR had a T4, as I mentioned, that great rise up. And Corey Connors had kind of a mixed bag. He had a 6 last year, but also kind of feel like Corey Connors was probably a little better golfer than back then. Shane Lowry, funny enough, has had a pretty good course history. He's also been playing a little better golf. I have no problem. I mean, you only make so many picks, and out of what I see, I'm going to go ahead and skip Shane, but could do well. Cameron Young, I was off him last. I mean, a lot of people are just off this guy right now. A lot of it is just a putter, but he's also, we don't need his, one of the best drivers on tour when it comes to length and accuracy, but that's a weapon that's not really helping him around in these kind of tracks. So, thank you, Sahis. Same thing. I need you to hit fairways. And you can see he's also not been the best of form. So no, thank you. I'm going to go right back to Kuchar. it was a struggle. He barely just made the cut, but his game again should fit perfect here, and we don't have to leverage the ball striking from 200 out, where he's been very good from this 100 to 125, where I believe a lot of the shots will be coming in from. Killer Keith actually shot up there. I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, and then kind of fell back, but I was kind of shocked to see that. But you can see everything has been kind of rough for Killer Keith. And again, I don't need his elite T-ball history as far as I think on how it's going to play. You can see, though, last year he had a good showing. So who knows? Benoit actually pulled out of the tournament. Benoit, he's out. Adam Hadwin, this should be a perfect fit for him. He's not been in a good run of form, as you can see here. And, I had a T6 back in 2019. So I got to say pass. Adrian Moronk, I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to get a lot of buzz, and people are going to play him where he won the Italian Open, which, from my understanding, and again, I don't know the course that well at all, but it is kind of a plotter course, but I don't know what kind of trouble you can get in. So you could reference the Italian Open win to kind of jump on that bandwagon, but, the guy, again, I like him when I need his elite kind of distance off the tee, ball striking. So I'm going to pass with that. This is the same thing I said last week. I don't know about Adam Svensson. I think it's a great course fit, but I don't know what's going on with him, if he's healthy or not. So this one's got a question mark. I don't know. I'm going to wait, again, and maybe see hopefully something come out so we find out, is it a back thing? Is it a neck thing? What the heck is going on with Adam Svensson? Is it a wrist thing? It could be all of those. But should be a great fit if he's healthy, so keep an eye on that. Nikolai Horgard, I'm going to put you right under that camp of I don't need your elite distance here. So, and you haven't been playing that great. So I'm going to pass. Ludwig, I told you guys I bet this guy. That was it. Just wanted to bet him. I don't think I'm going to play him in DFS, or again, I think this is his first professional debut. So I don't know, but we don't have enough data on him right now, so I'm going to pass. Funny enough, Bramlett comes up here pretty high, as I mentioned, which is a bit of a shocker, but he has been playing good golf. Again, I was picking him in spots earlier in the year where, we could leverage that, elite distance off the tee, the ball striking. But again, from everything that I'm seeing, I'm putting this as more of a plotter course. So I'm going to pass on that. But Nick Taylor, again, I kind of mentioned, even though maybe not the best run of form lately, but, Canadian, and this course should fit him perfect. So I'm going to go to Nick Taylor. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to pick Michael Kim. I told you so, didn't pick him for I picked him for the Byron Nelson. He missed the cut. I was off him, and then of course he shows up. And at a Charles Schwab, I think, as I showed you, it's a good comp course. So I'm going to go back to Michael Kim, which should tell you guys to not play him in DFS because he'll probably miss the cut. I think Eric Cole could be a fine play here. The only reason why I'm not going with him is the driver, but everything else fits him fine. I think I told you guys I bet him. Brendan Todd, I would be playing him in a heartbeat, but we got to keep an eye out and see if he WDs from this event, because supposedly he pulled out due to a shoulder. I think it was more of he didn't want to put that 90 on the scorecard. So we'll see how that comes out. So I'm not telling you not to play Todd or that I won't play Todd. He's not selected right now because I don't have information if he's healthy or not. Alex Smalley, no thank you. I don't know. I'm just not a Smalley guy. Like I said, I'll wait for the Wyndham. When we get there, I'll play Alex Smalley. Aaron Wise, I would love to play you here, but dude, you've been a disaster. Like, I know you took a little mental break, and I'm not banging on you for that, but man, it is not working. And I don't know what is going on, but I believe a lot of it's got to be confidence at this point, because this guy went from, one of the better ball strikers on tour. Like, he always had a bad putter, and that was fine. You could sit there and deal with, maybe the putter flips, maybe it doesn't. Right now, though, the guy's doing absolutely nothing. So I hate to say that. I'm a big fan of. He was always in my ball striking camp to play, but I can't play you under current form. Matt Manili, no thank you. I can't have you in the trees all day. Yes, you're a great putter, but nope. Taylor Pendrith, actually this was kind of interesting. I think I bet this guy. Of course, he's Canadian. The last time he showed up was actually at the Rocket Mortgage. I think it was one of the first tournaments he played on the tour. Let's go see here. Yeah, right here. And funny enough, he was hitting he was probably down clubbing, but he had a lot of shots from 100 out, and he was also betting on bent. So that's the why I bet Taylor Pendrith, but I don't know I'm going to play him on DFS. Also, right, he's got pretty great length, but I don't know if you go under the Rocket Mortgage comp, he could be a good play from a DFS. Harry Hall, right, came out, was leading the Charles Schwab, had a chance to win that thing. I don't know. For me, I feel like I'm getting sucked in. So typically he doesn't do what he was doing at the Colonial at Charles Schwab. So I'm gonna pass. I'll let some other people. You know what? If he does it again, he goes to a tight course with high rough and comes out perfect, then shame on me. I should have known. This Michael Thorborson, right? He's an American. He plays at Stanford. He's an amateur. We just don't have anything on him. I mean, he's had a bunch of wins at the college level. So I don't know if I can get on and look at some ownership during the time. I'll maybe check him out. But again, right now I just have nothing really to go on at a PGA level. Aaron Rai, I told you guys I'm not going with him because of the putter, but he's a good fit. If he makes putts, and it's like I said, it's going to be a putting contest, how I see it. So I do need guys that can putt. Sam Stevens, same thing. Lee Hodges, we had a good showing. Let's go show you guys some recent form with these guys. So Aaron Rai popped up at the Charles Schwabe. I think he was an alternate and just got into it like last minute. Sam Stevens been making cuts. The guy just can't putt. I do like to play him in showdown, so there's an idea. Hodges, right? I mean, that was a little bit of a shocker. But I felt like we went through him. I think he was one of my picks because tough courses he plays well. Brandon Wu, no, I don't think so. Yeah, really didn't put a lot of thought in that. I again like his ball striking. I like him on kind of the harder, bigger tracks, so I'm going to play him. Actually, Vincent Norman, I'm kind of on, even though just sat there and talked about I need a putter, but he's been doing this more and hope for like some putts to be made. And made the cut at the Schwabe. The Byron Nelson, I mean, that's just a score fest. So depending how this all shakes out, I like him. I'm going back to Lipsky because I was on him again for the Charles Schwab, but I didn't pick him for the Memorial because I think of David Lipsky as more of a strategic kind of plotter guy. So this should fit him perfectly fine. Mac Hughes, the home Canadian, can't do it, buddy. Who knows? First round leader might be interested in for that kind of bet if he's got early morning tee time because I've seen him do that a bit, but overall I'm going to pass. I am regrettably going to go back to Luke List, even though he does not fit the exact mold that I'm looking at. But I'm kind of seeing a little trend with List. I've seen this before. I mean, you can see if you go back to older courses, he's done pretty well here. He did make the cut at the Schwab. I feel like the putter, we'll take a look. I'll show you. I mean, it's not like he's gaining, but he's not losing 10 strokes. But you see the AT&T Byron Nelson and then, lost 3-3. But the guy's still been really, doing well. I mean, this is the reason why I want to play him is because what I'm seeing with the irons. And then also, right, his one win at the Farmers was on POA. This is not straight POA, but I don't know. I'm making some justifications for me playing Luke List, but I'm going to play him at 7,400. Especially on this field, I feel he's kind of an elite talent compared to other guys. Will Gordon, you could kind of put in that same camp, but I'm actually not seeing the exact form I want to see at him. Webb Simpson, though, thank you. In your day, I would have played you in a heartbeat here. Perfect fit, but nope. Benny Martin fits right in that plotter I want. Mark Hubbard fits right into that plotty camp. Nate Lashley also fitting right into everything I want. And you're going to notice I'm kind of moving a little faster, but I've got to kind of wrap this thing up a little shorter. Doug Gim's not a bad play. Could put him in. Badly, I told you I'm going to play him. You see, been in pretty good recent form. 7,200. Ches Reavie, sticking with Ches. So just so you know, Carson Young more from a scoring side. Dylan Wu, see he's making a ton of birdies. Also very good on the ball striking. Let me see who else I decided to play. Kevin Chappell, this could be a little unique. Funny enough right now, I mean, this is so early, but he's been actually backed. And I put Chappell kind of in the EVR camp. When he's on, man, his irons can be deadly. So I kind of like Kevin Chappell at 6,900. I told you I'm playing EVR. Do not play him. This is just my own personal play that I just have to prove for myself and just keep taking losses with this guy. But I got to do it. I'm just letting you know that I'm playing him with a side note that you should probably not put him in your DFS lineup. Lucas Glover did not make the cut at the Memorial, but again, for the price tag, give me an elite ball striker. Let's hope like heck he finds lightning in a bottle on the bent greens. Of course, I always reference the John Deere win that I picked him for, 80-1, I think he was, in a terrible field. Sean O'Hare, little unique, but the guy's been making cuts. So that's, down here, I'm looking for guys that are playing good enough golf to get you through to the weekend. Kevin Roy, I'm going to stick with, again, rough with the putter and around the green, but it's been doing enough. It's kind of showing like every other tournament is making a cut. So I might try that again at 6,600. And I believe that's my last pick. All the rest, there's a lot of bad players in this tournament. So on the good news, you got a lot of guys you can kind of just write off and should help maybe get us 6-6 through from a DFS side. All right, guys, let me wrap this up and summarize this for you. As I mentioned, I'm going back to Burnsy. So, you got the Burnsy, you got T-Hat, Corey Connors, JR, Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Kuchar, Adam Svensson. Again, keeping an eye on the injury stuff. Nick Taylor, Michael Kim. That guy was not supposed to be. I'm not picking Michael Thorbjornsen. I don't know why that showed up. Vincent Norman, David Lipsky, Luke List, Ben Martin, Mark Hubbard, Nate Lashley, Aaron Badley, Ches Reavy, Carson Young, Dylan Wu, Kevy Chappell, EVR, Lucas Glover, Sean O'Hare, and Kevin Roy. Some of these guys make me very nervous, but, like I said, it's not the strongest field. It's very top-heavy is how I kind of feel. So that's 24 guys that I'm looking to put in my player pool. The last thing I'll show you real quick, if you are looking to check out the weather, I'm not going to show you any weather. There's no reason to. But pull up Riverdale Park is where you want to pull it from Windfinder. Was the closest location to the course that I could find. All right, let's jump on and wrap this up. All right, guys. As always, thank you very much for spending that time with me. I know that was quick. It's not as deep in dive analysis I typically do for you guys. But again, I've got a bolt, and I'm going to be traveling all week. So this is all you're going to be getting from me. But good luck. Just keep your eyes and, watch the other guys out there. Or ping me. I'll do a little more analysis probably while I'm traveling. So if you have any questions, if I can help you, I will let you know. And as always, click that like button. And if you're not subscribed, I need you to, because get in that giveaway for $300, which I'll be doing next week. And just tell me who you think is going to win the U.S. Open. I've already had a ton of responses, so thank you for everybody for doing that. And if you've already responded, you only need to do it the once through the tournaments. I've got you already down. And last but not least, follow me on Twitter for my funny anecdotes and anything that I see that you guys need to know. Like, hey, Morikawa's going to WD. The problem was that happened after lock. There was nothing anybody could do about that, which totally sucks. All right, guys, have the greatest week. I will talk to you again where we'll be doing the U.S. Open info and shows and all that. So good luck at the Canadian Open. Again, I am leaning, as you probably saw, more on the, really good irons and putters is what I'm looking for, and guys that can hit fairways. So that's the lean, and we'll see how that works out. All right, guys, take care. Talk to you later.